Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive, and a very warm welcome to the Kenya Wantam Noda Movement, or KWM, podcast. Today, we're diving into let's say, the very complex world of Kenyan politics. Specifically, we're looking at the relationship, the surprising dynamics between Raila Odinga and William Ruto, two huge figures, and we'll be exploring why a really insightful recent article suggests that maybe, just maybe, any alliance they might form wouldn't have the same impact it once might have, especially thinking ahead to 2027. Now, our main source for this discussion is an article titled Why Raila Odinga Can't Help Ruto Win 2027 and Why That's a Good Thing, and it's published right here by us, the Kenya Wantam Notam Movement.
Yeah, and what's really interesting, I think, is how this piece breaks down the changing political scene in Kenya. It goes beyond just, the usual power deals and really highlights how the voters themselves, what they expect, is shifting. So our mission today, really, is to unpack the main points of the article. We want to help you understand why it argues the old playbook, the old rules of political loyalty, maybe they just don't apply anymore. And, of course, what that could mean for leadership in Kenya going forward.
Okay, definitely sounds like a lot to unpack. Let's get into it. So the article starts by looking back, late 2022, right? Those sort of whispers, the pictures, Raila and Ruto, who everyone saw as, bitter enemies, suddenly appearing together. But the article says straight away, many Kenyans just weren't buying it. Why not? What was the skepticism about?
Well, that's a key question, isn't it? Why were people so skeptical? The article really points out, look, Kenyans have seen this movie before. They remember 2018, the previous handshake, and what came, or rather, what didn't come after that. For millions of people just trying to get by, standing in those long lines for unga, maize flour, waiting at NHIF offices for healthcare matters, or, desperately trying to get their landlord to give them a bit more time. For them, these handshakes, these photos, they just felt like political theater, pure performance.
Right. Detached from the reality.
Exactly. The promises seemed recycled, same old stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the feeling was these deals, however they're presented, no matter how glossy they look, they wouldn't put food on the table. Not back then, and certainly not now. So it was seen as a performance, really, without any real substance for ordinary folks.
That makes sense, that feeling of we've been here before. And sticking with that theme, the article makes this really bold statement: loyalty has a shelf life. It argues that the Raila Odinga of, say, 2005 is very different from the one we might see in 2025. And it suggests Ruto knows this very well. This seems particularly interesting when thinking about younger voters. How does the article frame that?
Yeah, that focus on the youth is fascinating, specifically the youthful voter aged under 35. The argument KWM makes is that loyalty isn't something you can just bank on forever, decade after decade. Especially, and this is the key bit, when politicians are seen sitting at tables with the very figures you once deemed the problem.
The consistency issue.
Precisely. That inconsistency, that lack of a clear, unwavering ideological stance that sticks with voters, particularly younger ones who maybe don't have those long-term historical allegiances. The article stresses it's less about Raila's past achievements and more about, who he's willing to align himself with today. And the suggestion is Ruto isn't really looking for advice from Raila. He's looking for an endorsement.
Just the appearance of support?
Sort of, yeah. But that endorsement, the article argues, comes with baggage that today's voter doesn't want to carry. They see the history, they see the shifts, and they're just not willing to overlook it for a new deal.
Okay, so if that abstract idea of loyalty is fading, especially for the youth, what does the article say does matter to them? It mentions places like Kibra, Siaya, Umoja, covering different parts of the country. They've seen the promises from the men in suits that just, vanish. So what are they actually concerned about now?
Right, and this gets to the absolute core of it. The source is very clear. Young people care about tangible things, real-world issues. We're talking food prices, the cost of school fees, whether they can get affordable internet access. These are the things hitting them daily.
The basics.
Exactly, the basics. And the article states they see no direct link between these political handshakes up top and their own struggles on the ground. In fact, it argues these alliances can actually backfire, making them trust both men even less.
That's interesting. It deepens the distrust.
It does, because, as the article highlights, when your supposed champions are seen breaking bread with the very villains they once opposed, the whole narrative just feels, inauthentic. That feeling of misalignment, maybe even betrayal, is really powerful. It's like they're saying, stop the political games, address our real problems.
A very clear message. And this leads the article to shift focus a bit, arguing that Ruto's real problem isn't Raila, it's himself. It acknowledges his 2022 win was built on, noise, power, and a promise. The wheelbarrow symbol, the whole hustler anthem, tapping into that anger in marginalized areas. But 2 years later, what does the KWM article say has happened? Why wouldn't a Raila alliance even help much now?
Well, connecting the dots, the source suggests that an initial energy, the heat, has dissipated. Those slogans that were once so powerful, now they ring hollow for many. His government, the article points out, has faced issues marred by scandal, public outcry, and escalating costs.
So internal challenges.
Big time. It mentions civil servants are disgruntled and the people's wallets are lighter. The central argument KWM puts forward is stark. No political alliance, not even Raila's support, can disguise the fact that Ruto's government has failed to deliver on those core promises.
Yeah.
The better life for the hustlers. The article says it just hasn't materialized. It gives examples. Roads remain in disrepair, public workers are underpaid, and the youth's hopes for change continue to fade. So this erosion of support from within because of perceived failures in governance is presented as a much bigger problem than any political deal could fix.
Right. The initial optimism has faded into disappointment.
That's the picture painted, yes.
And that ties directly into the next point, doesn't it? That the whole hustler narrative itself has lost its appeal. It was fresh, it resonated, but now the article suggests the shine is gone. What specific things have caused this disillusionment, according to the piece?
Yeah, the contrast it paints is really quite striking. You have the original promise, the hustler identity that so many embraced, versus what people are apparently seeing now. According to the article, the very people who backed Ruto are now witnessing things like government contracts go to friends and family members. They're seeing taxes rising while the rich seem untouched. And they see a leader who once promised to fight for the poor now dining with billionaires.
That creates a perception of hypocrisy, surely.
Exactly, a deep sense of it. And the article argues that Raila, joining this picture now, it does nothing to clean up the mess. It only muddies it further. Bringing them together, it suggests, just erases any sense of distinction for voters who might be looking for a genuine alternative. It uses that analogy, remember, like selling a broken radio as new just by slapping a new label on it. The core message has been undermined by actions, perceived actions, that contradict it.
That's a powerful analogy, really hitting home the idea of superficial fixes. And it leads to this broader statement the article makes. Kenya is not a transaction. It notes how Kenyan politics has often felt like a marketplace for these power deals. But now, the article says, this time, the shelf is gathering dust. What's changed in the voters' mindset? Why are they rejecting this transactional approach?
Well, linking it all together, the argument is the electorate itself has fundamentally changed, or perhaps matured. The article says quite strongly, Kenyans are no longer buying what's on offer. That idea you mentioned, a handshake, won't convince the struggling mother in Kawangware that her life will improve. That really captures the shift.
It's grounded in daily life.
Absolutely. The source is explicit. This isn't 2002, 2007, or 2013. The voter today is no longer swayed by political bargains made in smoky rooms or on luxurious podiums. What people want now, demand now, are results, tangible, measurable change, things they can see and feel in their own lives. They've seen the political dance before, the article implies, and they're not buying it anymore. It really suggests a move towards demanding substance over political showmanship.
That feels like a really significant shift, a reevaluation of political power. And if these insights resonate with you, if you believe in the power of sharing ideas and working together for positive change, we really encourage you to get involved. Please visit the Kenya Wantam Notem movement at www.wantamnotem.com. You can create an account there, share your own ideas, contribute to finding solutions for your village, your city, your nation. That's www.wantamnotem.com. Now, back to our deep dive. The article also takes a close look at Raila Odinga's evolving role. It says, quite bluntly, Raila is no longer the messiah of power deals. For years, he was seen that way, right? A political lifeline, someone whose support could make or break things. What factors does the KWM article point to beyond just time passing that have perhaps lessened his influence?
Yeah, it's an interesting question about how political power itself changes over time. The source suggests that, historically, Raila might have been the person you called in when things needed shaking up, a kind of temporary solution. But it emphasizes, this isn't 2002. He simply no longer wields the influence he once did. And here's the crucial part, the article argues. While he might have once controlled the streets, the rallies, he doesn't control the hunger, the poverty, or the disillusionment that are the driving forces for many Kenyans today.
So he doesn't control the core issues anymore.
That's the argument. All he has now, the article suggests, is history, and history alone isn't enough to deliver votes anymore. His past influence is acknowledged, but its power to sway voters facing immediate economic hardship is seen as greatly diminished. The focus has shifted from historical weight to present-day impact.
And speaking of history, the article reminds us Kenyans have long memories. They remember the protests, the tear gas, the passionate rallies believing in Raila's cause. But it also mentions a specific betrayal. What was that referring to, and what does the article predict would happen if he tried a similar alliance, say with Ruto, in 2027?
Right, the psychological impact of past events is really highlighted here. The betrayal the source explicitly points to is when Raila, after years of being the main opposition figure, stood by Uhuru, the incumbent president at the time. For many of his supporters, Uhuru represented the very system they felt oppressed them. That memory, the article states, won't fade easily. It's deeply embedded.
A lasting impact.
A very lasting impact. And the prediction for 2027, if you were to team up with Ruto, the article is stark. It says it won't be forgiveness that awaits him. Instead, it predicts questions and worse silence. The crowd won't cheer, they won't boo, they'll simply walk away.
Oh.
Yeah, and the source emphasizes just how potent that is. Indifference is far more dangerous than any vocal opposition. It's not about losing support actively. It's about becoming irrelevant to people's concerns, a complete disengagement.
That is a powerful point, indifference being the ultimate sign of lost relevance. So the article wraps this all up with a big idea. Kenya has outgrown political brokerage. It challenges that old chessboard thinking, the idea that getting Raila's nod automatically controls regions or splits the opposition. Why does the article say that logic is now outdated? Where does the real power lie now?
Well, pulling it all together, the source argues Kenya has simply moved beyond that whole era. It's not about Raila offering support anymore. As the article puts it, it's about Kenya no longer needing him to.
Yeah.
The argument is the real power now lies with the people. It specifically mentions the boda riders, the teachers, the students, the jobless youth, the urban poor, these groups who are dealing with the day-to-day realities.
The grassroots level.
Exactly. These are the people, the article contends, who are no longer concerned with political deals made behind closed doors. Their focus is locked onto the issues that affect their lives daily. And crucially, they're not picking sides based on who met who at Steakhouse. It suggests a real shift towards issue-based politics and demanding accountability, moving away from just following personalities or elite deals.
So looking at the big picture then, what this KWM article seems to be highlighting is a pretty major shift, wouldn't you say? A move away from those traditional, almost transactional alliances towards an electorate that's demanding concrete results, holding leaders accountable in a much more direct way.
It definitely suggests that, and it raises a huge question, doesn't it? If those old ways of wielding influence, brokering power, are actually fading, how are future leaders going to adapt? How do you lead when the population is increasingly discerning, focused on delivery, maybe even disillusioned with politics as usual? It really challenges the whole idea of political leadership and accountability in Kenya today. It seems the game might be changing towards genuine service and proven results, rather than just alliances in history.
Absolutely. So what stands out most to you listening to this deep dive? How do you see political leaders needing to change to connect with people who aren't swayed by old loyalties anymore, who prioritize actual performance? It's definitely a thought-provoking shift we're seeing described here. And before we wrap up, just one more reminder. If you're inspired by these ideas and want to be part of building a better future through collective action, please do check out the Kenya Wantam Notam movement. Visit www.wantamnotam.com. Create your account, share your thoughts or solutions. Let's work together. That's www.wantamnotam.com. Thank you so much for joining us and listening to the Kenya Wantam Notam movement, the KWM podcast.